been logged into history list. It's been a long day. Yeah, and you've been testing all of your runtime functions all at once. Word. And you don't know what else to do. But just to put it check it, let me tell you this, that wow, I've been flowing all night, my eyes are red magenta. I drop another action, then I select a connector. Sounds punches got the beat down like static selector. I'm dynamic, you swear that I shapeshift like Agent Smith, flipping state machines in the Matrix. I got more drive than Avis, yet I'm so fly. Punkin' primitive physics, show you how to deliver a flow in a crash course on funk logistics and automation. I could do this all day, step by step like debugging RPA. I pledge allegiance to Foxtrot, feeling like Dr. Doom when I'm rolling with my legion of bots. I OCR, whether it's JPGs or BMPs or PNGs. You can't see me easily, cause my imagery is beyond pixel. Hey guys, I'm finally back in South Africa from Israel. It's a beautiful winter evening here in South Africa. And today I've decided to do a blog post on Nintex Workflow Cloud. There was a event that I attended sometime earlier this year where I showcased a student registration process that I built using Nintex Workflow Cloud. So a couple of things to note is that I've obviously logged into my Workflow Cloud tenant. This is what we call the workflow inventory because it lists all of your workflows over here. And because Workflow Cloud is independent of any platform, I can therefore see my start events. I can also see the type of workflow depending on whether I want to push it to production or keep it in development, as well as the status. And then also I can see when last was it edited and who edited this workflow. Another nice thing about Workflow Cloud is that at any point, if I wanted to track my workflows, I can go here under instances. If I've got tasks that I want to look at, I can go under tasks. If there's connections to other systems that I want to set up, I can do that. Or if I want to add my own custom actions, I can go ahead and use the extensions, which makes use of Open API or Swagger. Last thing is obviously there's some of the standard stuff, like the settings, for example, where I can, for example, manage my users or go as far as setting up Azure AD over here. So really nice intuitive design that we've got in there. But for today's demo, I'm going to go into student registrations. As you can see immediately, it's something that starts with a public form. So if I click on this ellipsis, I can always see the form URL as well as the snippet. So what I'll do is that I'll open that in a new tab. And then what I'm also going to do in this current tab is go ahead and edit my workflow and run you through some of the components. So I've decided to do this blog post a little differently. Usually I'll go through the scenario and then show you what it looks like from an end user perspective. But for this post specifically, what I've done is I've explained all of that in ProMap, which I'll run you through in a second. So as you can see, this is my workflow designer. Obviously you can see that the form is the first thing that needs to happen. So because this is a public form on a website, what I've done is that I've specified that anyone with the URL can register because anyone could be a student. And then obviously I've made this available to the web. And if I go ahead and I click on design form, immediately you're going to see that I've got my universal forms designer. So I've made use of what we call pages, which allows you to specify various sections that you might want to have on the form. So you can always add a new page, and you can obviously play around with the layout to make it something that looks tabular, such as this horizontal layout, or something vertical where it's pretty much going all the way down, so where you fill out each section and proceed to the next. So this is what you will get when you take my export key of this workflow and import it into your own tenant. And then also what you can do is with universal forms, we've got quite a nice set of rules that you can set up. So there's three types of rules that you can do. So you can do rules on form load, you can do rules on input, as well as submit. So the reason why we came up with that is so that you don't have to worry about writing any sort of code. So typically what we've seen with our classic forms designer is people would usually write JavaScript to be able to execute the business logic using various events in the form.
which is what they call the document object model in JavaScript. But you guys don't have to worry about that. We've got quite an intuitive forms engine in here. And then if you go ahead and you look at the workflow as well, you'll notice that the workflow is obviously in state machines. Obviously, when the student comes into this process, first thing I do over here is give them a welcome pack, which is my first state in there. I use document generation over here, and then I send that to the student as an attachment as well. And then obviously, if they do require residence, which is a field on my form, my workflow will go ahead and switch to the residential application state, which is what you're going to see over here. So obviously, if there is a residential application, my workflow enters this part. And what you're seeing over here is a task, but the nice thing about Nintex Workflow Cloud is that we can take any task form, any task in fact, and actually build a form to that. So over here I've got my residential application, and then obviously again I use things like document generation to generate my residential contract, and then again I send that to the student in an email, and then again over here I use something like Nintex sign to get a signature from that person. And then obviously with our Nintex sign capability at this moment in time, we can obviously take advantage of some of that Adobe functionality to determine what should happen when the residential application has expired, when it's signed, or when it's aborted. So in here I've just kept it simple. When it's signed, I store that document, and then I obviously go ahead and I exit my state machine. If I wanted to make this more intuitive, I can simply do so, but I wanted to keep this video nice and short for you guys. Please take time to read the blog post. It's a really short read, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me using my Pro Map. So speaking of the Pro Map, let me show you what that looks like to explain the process in depth for you guys. So let's log into my Pro Map quickly. So I've got a demo tenant over here. And then as you can see, Pro Map is a really nice tool to use for business process modeling. So I've been working on this, and I can easily click on my recently viewed process maps. And then as you guys will see, you'll get access to this procedure where you can see all of the activities and tasks. So just to explain this process in greater detail, first thing that happens is the student will fill out a registration form. I've given you guys examples on how you can add a web link to the form and how you can make use of notes, for example, to explain to people in the process how they should react to certain questions or anything that they are unsure about. And then lastly, what I've also done is using ProMap's functionality of being able to upload videos. I've actually put a video in there. So for example, when I explain the process of completing an online registration form, I've literally just put a video in here guiding the student as to how they would complete this. So ProMap is great for not just modeling your process, but you can actually do some great documentation. And how I've picked this up is when I started with ProMap, I used the help section a lot. So if you look here on the top right corner, there's a help section, and then in there you'll notice that if you search for something, so let's say I'm looking for information on maybe process variance, for example, I can search for that key term or that keyword, and then you'll notice that whenever ProMap gives you results back as to how to achieve something. So let's look at administering, or let's actually look at the first one, manage process groups. You'll see that this is very similar to a procedure. It says procedure here at the top, and then as you can see, there's my objective, here's my activity, and there are all of my tasks. So you'll see that the ProMap guys have really done well to actually do the online documentation for this product using the capabilities in there. So that's something that I found really cool. At first it felt like an Easter egg, but it's pretty much oblivious and obvious. So It's not really much of an Easter egg, but it's really nice, as you can see some of the capabilities in there around documenting activities and tasks, and being able to embed things such as videos as well in there. So just going back to my process, just to give you a little bit of background information, what I've done is I've obviously mentioned the other activities where the student will get a welcome pack, which will be sent by the workflow. If they've selected accommodation, for example, I've specified that they need to complete the residential application process. So do take time to look into this. I will be sharing out a mini mode link, which will allow you to view the process visually and be able to click into any of these activities and see more information in here. And then if you guys want to give me some feedback, feel free to do that from the mini mode link by clicking on this feedback button, and then you can obviously choose what sort of feedback that you want to give to me. I hope you enjoyed this blog post, and I hope you guys enjoy yourselves during your Nintex journey. Bye.
What's your name, fool?
Capital P, bandana P, VIP, MVP, RSVP or RIP, VSOP, ASAP.